Hello everyone, this is Jenkins Platform SIG meeting. Today we're on December the 16th, and around the very small table today we have Mark Waite and myself, Bruno Versten. Welcome. On the agenda today we'll discuss about Java 17, 21, and 25. We'll discuss also about the container image updates for the controller, the agents, the work in progress, and the very last subject should be the code signing for the MSI installer. Anything else you would like to add, Mark?
Nothing else from me.
Cool, thank you. So, Java 17 and 21, a short status update. So, the Java 17 end of life proposal, this is from Oracle, I guess, or the Java community. It's not, no, okay, it's
No, no,
ours.
this is yeah. So we're still at least 2 years before Eclipse Tamarin will stop supporting Java 17, and Oracle already switched the license terms almost a year ago. So no, this is
Okay,
just for us.
my bad. That's a nice start. Thank you, Mark. So, what you propose, or the community proposes, is that on March 31, 2026, we'll get a warning date in the admin monitor itself. So, in your Jenkins controller, you will have. No, that's not right.
Close, already there. It's been there for 5 months, or been there for the last 3 months. So
Oh,
it's
I haven't
been
seen that. Yeah, I've
because
been
you
running Java 21 and 25 for quite a while.
Exactly. Me too. I was sort of shocked when I turned on Java 17 for some specific things, and oh, oops, there is this big warning. It's
Oh,
configured to appear
whoops.
6 months prior to end of life,
So
and
March
so
30th, yeah, 31st is the date that will be displayed. Not the date will display something, stupid me.
right. We
Yeah.
we we've been telling people now for 4 months, for 3 or 4 months. March 31st is end of life for Java in Java 17 in the Jenkins project. But as a practical fact, we can drop it now and weekly because we've chosen the last LTS baseline. The last LTS baseline that will support Java 17 is 2.541.1, 2, and 3, and that will be January, February, March of 2026. April 2026, Java 21 and Java 25 only.
Okay, got it. What does it mean to drop Java 17 from Jenkins weekly, apart from telling everyone and showing something in the admin monitor? Does it mean that we'll also change the bytecode version or not yet?
I think that certainly the first step is there are many different steps, and we need to actually capture those steps, put them into the 2+2+2 Jenkins enhancement proposal, and remember them. But one is stop stop allowing Jenkins to run with Java 17 by just declaring and changing the code to say if it's Java 17 we don't support it. Another is stop generating Java 17 bytecode. And in order to do that, we probably need to, in the components that contribute to Jenkins, build them with Java 21 bytecode first, and then build Jenkins itself with Java 21 bytecode. So we've got lots of steps that need to be done before we would call the end of Java 17 support done.
But that's something we've already done in the past with Java 8 and Java 11, right? So we may have already documentation regarding the process.
Documentation, no, that's what the JEP was supposed to provide. But do we have a
Oh,
history that shows it? Yes, we do. We
okay,
have,
that's better than
we
nothing.
absolutely have history in the Git commits that show it. And now that we're on GitHub Action or GitHub, now that we're on GitHub for bug tracking, we can even consider using a GitHub project as a way to track and record all those things.
Oh, okay, nice. We'll see how this goes. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
thanks, Mark, for explaining all of that. I was all wrong. Uh, Now, let's go with Java 25 because that's the future. No, that's not the future. That's our
It's the
current.
present and the
It's the
future.
present. You're right. It's been more than 2 months or October, November. Yeah, 3 months now. Wow, that's quite something. And Jenkins Core itself has been compatible with JDK 25 for a few weeks now. I think we're delivering today the 2.420 something. No, not that 2040. My bad. Okay, I
Right.
think I still have some fever. That's why I'm saying
So
more than 10. That's,
we've been running Java 25 supported for 6 weeks at least.
yeah. And so far, so good,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a plugin maintainer and you want to give it a try, feel free to do it because it should work as long as your plugin is well maintained. I would say if you have a recent POM parent, that should work quite well. Mark, you've been pushing lots of PRs recently to go with JDK25 of the top 250 most installed plugins. How did it go most of the time? Pretty well, right?
Yeah, if so, 220 plus are already now working with or testing with Java 25. I've got a remaining, I think, of that 220 number, about 5 of them are pending pull requests. The others are merged and actually running. So, but good results. I intentionally ignored repositories that have no Jenkins file.
Yeah.
That's well, I mean that's a challenge. I ignored repositories that are archived or that are deprecated, because even if they're in the top 250 plugins, we're not changing deprecated plugins. We're not attempting to bring them forward. Right? They are deprecated. You should switch to the replacement.
If they exist. And most of the time, they do exist.
Yes.
You know, they have the common joke with Jenkins plugins ecosystem thing. If you want to do something X, there's a plugin. No, wait, there are 2. No, I'm wrong. 4. Oh, 3 of them are deprecated. Okay.
Right.
Just kidding. The situation is way better than what I just described, but you get the idea.
Understood. Yep.
Mark, I didn't know how to name that, so I wrote some kind of an epic to ensure JDK25 works. That's not what it is. Is that what we call a GitHub project? I'm not accustomed to that.
That is my first attempt at a GitHub project, and I've seen, if you look in projects, you'll see someone who's using projects better than I am, and I'm trying to learn from that person who's doing it better than I am. If you look, oh, you don't see it. Okay, I see Daniel Beck's private project for CSP. Yes, CSP for Classic Jenkins UI. You look at that project, and it's clear he's got things that are to do, things that are in review, things that are done, and that's what I want. But I don't have it yet, and I've got to study how he's doing it to see. But I think this is a good way for us to capture the work that's required to do Java 25, because then when we do Java 28 or 29, I guess it's 29 will be the next. When we do 29 next, we'll have a little better record of the things we had to do.
Okay, got it. That's what we used to do with Jira Epic back in the day. Yeah.
Right, exactly. This is roughly equivalent to a Jira Epic. Right.
Okay, thank you, Mark. But you are way more advanced than I am, because I even didn't catch that it was a project despite it being written there. So not some kind of an epic, is a GitHub project.
Right. For Java 25. And we'll see. I'm not sure it'll stay that way, because I've probably made terrible mistakes, but we're going to learn, and when we'll try to get better as we learn.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Mark. Now, for the agents, we've been having some Docker agent images and the Docker SSH agent images for a while now, and I don't know if anybody uses them or if they are flawless, but so far we haven't got any complaint. As for the controller, it's still a work in progress, or work stale or stuck, I would say. I thought somebody, or even me, could revamp it and recreate it, but so far I haven't found time to work on it. Yes, Mark.
Well, and Damien had asked that we wait a little bit on that, because...
Oh, really?
Yeah, Damien specifically wanted us to hold on that, because it will be much easier if we wait until Windows 2025 is ready in the Jenkins infrastructure. So it's not a shock. Yes, it'll be nice for us to get the controller with Java 25, but it's also pretty easy to create your own container image that has Java 25 in it. If you want to test containers with Java 25, you can do it pretty easily without relying on the Jenkins container.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, thank you, Mark. And I just wanted to touch on the Linux containers and not the Windows containers, because I just can't get it. But that's okay. I will wait or even forget it. We'll see. Now, for the container image updates regarding the Jenkins controller. So last week we had the 2.528.3 that was released. Oh, I got it wrong. Okay, it's not Christian, just Christian, but Christian with Shalini for its first time. His first time, right? Shalini was, yeah, asking to do that, but you need to have some kind of a mentor because it's pretty intensive process, and there are some traps here and there. So it's good to have somebody to help you. It's not perfect yet. What we found in this release is that we bumped Alpine Linux, UB9, and now the next LTL should be based on 2.541. The decision has been made lately. I didn't hear anybody complaining about that, so that should be the one. And so the release should be supplied on January 25 next year. Anything to say about that, Mark?
No, looking forward to it. It will have content security policy.
Oh,
So
nice.
special thanks to you, Bruno, and to Basil Crow, and to Yaroslava Fankin, and Shlomo Dahan, and Daniel Beck, and Kevin Garoj. Years of work have reached the point where we are ready at least to offer it as an option that administrators can enable. And I've been running with content security policy enabled now and finding it very positive. So great result. Defend against an
That's pretty
entire
cool.
class of security vulnerabilities.
And you don't have to install a plugin anymore to do so. It's in the
Right.
Jenkins
Right
controller
inside
itself.
Jenkins core now.
That's pretty cool. And that should be the last Jenkins controller version, LTS version that works with JDK 17, right?
Correct. Also.
Yes,
Yep.
I got it right. At least one thing right. Cool. Thank you, Mark. As for the weeklies now, we haven't seen anything major. We've seen the usual suspects, yeah, update CLI, the create pull request, UB9 Alpine version bumps, and that's all. Now
Yeah,
for
actually,
the
so you may have
I missed
missed it.
something, right?
There, well,
Oh,
so James Nord submitted changes that moved one or more of the permissions from what used to be beta. Oh, you're talking about container images. Sorry, I was talking about Jenkins features, right?
but that's okay. We
You're
can.
right. No, this is really about the container images, not about the features in Jenkins core.
But you could tell me a few words about that
Sure,
because I
sure.
missed that important thing.
Well, and so if you go to 2.542, you'll see that what we've got there is okay. Content security policy telemetry, good. Enables overall managed by default. So it was could be enabled previously. Now it's by default on. And then a few other improvements to better support content security policy. Some of those will actually be backported to the 2.541 LTS
Okay.
baseline just to be sure that we get them.
Thank you, Mark. Now, for the Jenkins agent, we had just one new release for the SSH agent, where we just add a few dependency updates, some documentation updates regarding how to keep your host keys, and the reordering of Windows test and the improvement of that description. So that shouldn't change much for the end user. For the Docker agent, we had 3 new releases. So the first big change is that we had a new Jenkins remoting version in which I only spotted one thing by Jesse Glick, which is strict connect TCP as part of the retriable IO.
Right.
Yeah, whatever it is. As for the bug fixes, we now have the installation of Git LFS config to system rather than global. We have a few documentation updates and the usual dependency updates. Mark, any remark or question regarding these last container image updates?
Nope. Nothing new for me to offer there.
Thank you. As for the progress on images, I haven't spotted anything regarding the controller. As for the Docker agent, we've been having this one, the run each JDK test in parallel. It's a draft PR. It's been running for a while now. Thank you, Hervé, for trying that. The goal is to spend less time, so spend less money whenever we test the JDK test. And also the build of 2022 images from a 2025 agent? That's a big subject, the whole 2025 Windows um, images for Jenkins. They have to be changed just about everywhere because most of the time we are still using 2019 images, which are deprecated, and that's a risk we don't want to have. So mostly Hervé is working on how to build our 2019 to 2025 and transitioning through 2022, which we already supply these days. But there are lots of surprises along the way. And that's the same for the Docker SSH agent. Hervé is also working on building images for the 2025 Windows images. And I think that's all for the work in progress on images. Now, Mark, you wanted to talk about the code signing for the MSI installer. So currently, how do we do that? I think it's directly in a pipeline within Jenkins, right?
It is, right. So today, so 3 years ago, and we've done this now for probably 15 or almost 20 years, we have a code signing certificate that allows us to sign MSI files. We purchased that from DigiCert so that our MSI files, when users run them, they do not receive the pop-up message that says, we don't trust this thing, right? It's crucial that we have that. Otherwise, the MSI install experience is awful. And so we need that. 3 years ago, when we bought the certificate, we installed it into our dedicated trusted release pipeline. So it's safely protected behind all sorts of safeguards. But shortly after we purchased that certificate, DigiCert switched their model to require a physical device that has the token, it has the signing certificate installed on it, so that you have to insert the physical device into a computer in order to sign from that computer. That's good in the sense that that's very, very careful, right? You want to be sure that you know who has it, but we're cloud built and we really don't want to have to put a device into a computer on the cloud, right? That's not
Really?
not a
How do you
thing that's going
insert
to
a
work.
USB key into a VM in the cloud? I have no idea.
Exactly. It's not going to work. So the technique then is there are other ways to do it, and DigiCert offers a technique. They've got a service that can be used instead of using a physical key. But more interesting to me is Microsoft now has the concept of trusted actions, and code signing is one of them. Now, I think it may be able to sign an installer, but I haven't proven it yet. And so that for me is the exercise. By May 15th of 2026, we need to have transitioned from the existing MSI installer or MSI signing certificate package to signing with a new certificate that will be valid for another at least 3 years. And so that transition needs to happen, but it's a project that needs to be explored first, detailed out what would it mean to do this, what's the cost to the Jenkins project, what's the effort to implement it, who's going to do it, etc. So there's work to be done, and we've got roughly 6 months to do it.
Got it. Thank you, Mark. When you say Microsoft now offers a GitHub Action for signing, what do you mean? Isn't it transparent through a GitHub Action? Do you have to register something on the Microsoft side? I just don't get it.
Yeah, well, so one of the purposes of these certificates is so that so that Microsoft and users can assert that the thing came from a trusted entity. And in order to become a trusted entity, there's some process that has to be followed to recognize, oh, we should be trusted. So with DigiCert, it required that we submit some legal paperwork, and that the Jenkins project had to provide evidence that we are part of the Continuous Delivery Foundation, which is part of Linux Foundation. Those kinds of corporate safety checks have to be put in place so that arbitrary evil attacker cannot just buy a certificate and suddenly become okay. And I assume there's something similar for the Microsoft trusted things, but I don't know what that is because I haven't explored it yet.
Got it now. Thank you so much for the explanation, Mark. Now I think I do understand. Hello, Salman. I hadn't seen you joined us. Thank you for coming. Mark, is there anything else you would like to address today?
I think, well, let's see, Contributor Summit People should be
Yeah, why
aware
not?
that uh, January 30th, 2026, in Brussels, Belgium, will be the Contributor Summit. Uh, it's limited attendance because of the size of the room we get, etc., and our focus. So the people who are being invited to attend are being notified by email, hey, you're invited to attend, etc.
Okay, invited by email. And it's not a surprise, but that's cool nonetheless. You and I will be there.
Yes, we will.
I can't wait. Uh, yeah, I think it's time to wrap up, unless Salman, you have something to say. If not, that's okay. You don't have to. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Hello everyone. So I want to speak some words. So first of all, let me introduce myself. So uh, I am Salman, computer science graduation student, final year, and I have contributed previously to open source mainly with Fossology, where I have worked on understanding large code bases and fixing issues and collaborating with maintainers. And recently, I have been exploring Jenkins, and I'm really interested to contributing here as well. And I'm currently looking into setting up the Jenkins locally to better understand its architecture and workflow. So yeah, looking forward to
Okay.
learning from all of you.
You're more than welcome to participate, Salman. Thank you so much. And you know what? You just need Docker and one command. I'm tooting my own horn there, but just one Docker compose command, and you have Jenkins running on your machine. And if ever you don't have a powerful enough machine, which should not happen, because with just 1 GB of RAM and just a few CPU cores, Jenkins runs well on any machine. You can also do that through GitHub code spaces. If you go to the Jenkins.io website, look for tutorials, search for the Maven one, for example. If you know how to deal with Java and Maven, you could try the tutorial there, which will give you a link to the repo where you just with one click can have Jenkins, a Jenkins controller and a Jenkins agent running inside your browser. Okay, that's a lie. That's not inside the browser. That's somewhere in the cloud showing in your browser. But nonetheless, you could be up and running in minutes, Salman. So just give it a try.
Okay,
Oh
makes
man,
sense. Thanks. Thank you so
yeah,
much.
I think I'm selling that too much, but do I love this project? Whatever. Anyhow, we're almost out of time, so I think it's time to wrap up. Salman, feel free to come back whenever you want to. And there's also newcomers. Um, how's it called? It's not a server; it's a channel in Matrix. So don't hesitate to go there and ask some question if you want to. There are also a few issues labeled as good first issue in the Jenkins ecosystem, so feel free to give a look to them. Thank you.
Okay.
The recording should be available from 24 to 48 hours from now. The next meeting has been canceled because it's end of year holiday time. So the next one should be at the beginning of January somehow. I don't have the date in mind. Just let me check. So the 30th of December will be canceled. So it should be around the 12th of January. See you there. And until then, have fun with Jenkins. Bye bye.